Was this videoed the whole time?
Oh, yeah.
Are you... You didn't even let me go put fresh lipstick on or anything?
Sorry, you want to do it again?
No.
My name is Jeremy Melanson, co-founder of Turnkey Custom Homes. In 2016, I set out to build a home on some land. After failing to find a builder to help me understand the process, Turnkey was born and we were new builders. Fast forward past a lot of hard lessons, long hours, and adventure-like stories, we took our side hustle to a 7-figure business where we get to show up every day and work together with our friends and family to build beautiful custom homes. This series was created to pull back the curtain and go behind the scenes of home building and give us a chance to have an open conversation about how clients and builders can work together to achieve their goals. Let's begin to build.
Hey, thanks for tuning in today. We have an amazing guest today. I'm super excited that she's in the office. A lot of times we interact with her virtually. She is probably the single most person that makes sure the project runs successfully. But most homeowners don't even know that this role is a part of what we do. And we really try to outline what Miss Sandy does because she is really, really key to running a successful project. And that all comes in the pre-planning phase. So let's jump into it. Let's begin to build. So tell us a little bit about your background in custom home building.
I worked with the builder that initially built our house, my husband and my house in Magnolia. And I went to work for him originally as his customer service rep because, you know, when you build a house, you get in, you find some things that need to be adjusted, fixed, tweaked, whatever. And I started handling all of his projects, taking care of unfinished items or, you know, touch-ups that were needed after someone moved in. Did that for several years, and then I started being what I would call a part-time superintendent. We had a lot of houses on the ground. We had only one superintendent, and I started taking them basically from trim stage and finishing the houses. The superintendent would do all the foundation, get all the structure going. Once there was sheetrock on the walls, I would take them and finish them. Did that for several years, and then I became a full-time superintendent. So I was a full-time superintendent for 3 to 4 years. And then I went into the office and started doing all the estimating, ran the office, but my main job was budgeting and estimating and working with the builder to work with the clients to design and get the project up and going.
So you started working with your builder that was building your home?
Yes.
During the build?
No, he finished my home. We were in it real close to a year. Called him up one day, and how it started was I was telling my husband he needed someone to organize him. Just like a lot of homeowners, I had called him and said, hey, I got this problem. I need this fixed. Well, he was sometimes calling people. He didn't know if they ever showed up. He didn't know if once they walked out of my house, had they finished the job, and they didn't. So he didn't know that, and I'd have to turn around and call him. So that's what I did for him. Told my husband, I said, he needs help getting organized. And he said, well, you can do that, because I used to be a legal assistant for 11 years prior to this, and I was staying at home with my kids at the time. And I was like, okay. So I called him up. He came out, and I literally said, you need to hire me. And he said, okay. And that's how it started. And I started laughing, and I said, would you like me to tell you what I'm going to do? And he said, sure. And I told him, and he said, great. So it was something I could do and still stay at home with the kids, just do it while they were at school and still be able to be there when they got home. And so, like I said, I did it for a few years. And then I kind of fell in the superintendent spot because we did have the one superintendent, and he was not very organized. And I started being out on the jobs and just kind of took over. And again, he came to me and said, would you consider just doing the houses, because the end is where the customer would see it and everything. So I did that, and then he came to me and asked me to start being a full-time superintendent, and I was like, I've never poured a foundation. I have no idea. And he said, I can teach you that. You don't understand. You've actually been doing the hard job.
Right.
And I can teach you the other. So we did.
Because most people become builders because they are good at building things.
Right.
This organization that you talk about, these are great builders out there doing, an invaluable service for these homeowners, and everything is so good, but you were noticing a small part that you believed that you could help him with, which most of us out there struggle with that organization, with that follow up. We are out there building, so that's a hard part. So then you saw we struggle with that. Our brand struggles with the finalizing, the handoff, the checking back in after a year, all of that. So you cleaned up that part. Then you were introduced into if you're going to come back and do that part anyway, you might as well handle the last section of the home so that part's not as big on you, or you're more familiar with it. Then put you into a role, and then realized, hey, all of this organization would, put on the front end would help tremendously as well. And y'all had a huge success. I mean, extremely reputable builder, great family. Right. It sounds like that y'all did a lot of great work together.
We did. We worked together for 22 years.
That's amazing.
And I only left because I moved out of town.
Yeah.
I mean, still real good friends with him, and he does build a really great house and everything. But yes, organization and detail and follow-up is a big thing with building.
Yeah.
And that is where a lot of builders do struggle with that.
Right. Okay, so that's a little bit background of how you spent, 2 decades in the business. Tell us a little bit more about the role that you've transitioned into now and what you offer builders mostly. I mean, the homeowners getting the final result, the real benefit of what you're doing, but the builders, those of us that struggle with this part that you do, tell us a little bit about that part that you put together for us now.
Well, I create specifications. And I try to do them very detailed, because a plan is nothing but a flat piece of paper. Mm-hmm. It doesn't give you a lot of information. They can build that house, but you don't know the details of it. And I'm always amazed that there's people that will go with the builder, and our specifications, as you've seen, are good 13 to 17 pages long. They're pretty lengthy. And I would come in, clients would come in, and they'd give us someone else's specifications. They were a half of a page. Mm-hmm. And if you started asking them, well, what kind of doors are you going to get? Well, I don't know. Well, it's amazing, because purchasing a home, whether you purchase it or you build it, is probably the one place that you're going to spend the most money you've ever spent on anything.
Right.
So.
And the most time with the finished product.
Right. And whether it's $100,000 or it's $1 million, it's still going to be the biggest purchase you did. Mm-hmm. And you're paying somebody to give you what you want, not what they want.
Right.
So
we're a service. We're not a product. We don't build something and then sell it to you for the most part. Custom home builders are someone you hire to do a service for you. So it is amazing how many of us builders or how many clients go along with this service, not really knowing what's in that service, what you're getting.
Right. And because you are going to spend that money, shouldn't you have the say of where your money goes? And, it may be more important to you to get solid core doors. Mm-hmm. And you didn't even realize that they're giving you hollow core doors. And then you get them out there and they say, well, that's not what I was going to do. And it'll start snowballing. And it makes, I think the more detail that the homeowner and the builder has, it will stop future angst and arguments or just frustrations on both parts, and especially the homeowner's part. If they know ahead of time, so while you're in the design stage, when you got a good set of specifications, then at least everybody's on the same playing field. And if the budget doesn't match, which, how many of us can afford everything on our wish lists?
Right.
Not many people can afford everything. But then that gives the homeowner the power to say, I know this costs much, but I want this. I'm willing to give up this over here. But it's their money. So they should have the say on what they give up or what they're willing to spend a little extra on.
And all of these decisions are going to get made by the time the house is finished. You're not going to build the house without deciding what doors you're going to order. We're just talking about doing all of that work on the front end, because when you get to ordering your doors or maybe the cabinets that are going to go in your house or something like that, at that point, you want all these cabinets in your master closet, and they weren't shown on the drawings. Yeah, but I had these Pinterest pictures, and I always knew that I wanted them. Okay, but we didn't know that they were on the drawings, and so that the cabinet guy didn't know that they were on the drawings, and now he's going to quote X amount of dollars more. Maybe that's enough, and you would do it anyway, but you spent that money back when we were running the electrical or something, and you didn't want that extra that much, but it wasn't that much more, and you were willing to do it. You had the money, and yeah, you made the call, and then now you figure out you're not getting the cabinets that you thought you were going to get, or you're not going to get the type of doors that you thought you were going to get, because you already picked something that was less important than that decision, but it was already done. So those are the downsides of doing this as we go through the project. And the more that we can figure out on the beginning, the more we can consciously work with our builder or our designer, or, estimating the project through to where, okay, hey, let's move these things around. This budget's not coming into where I want it to be. Let's pull some of these things around. I wanted that, but it's not as important as this. I really don't want to lose this. Let's figure out how we can get it.
Well, if you have a good set of specs also, because like you're saying, when you're designing with a homeowner, you'll have several meetings, and there will be ideas will be once thrown out there, and they may be talking about something, and then you go back and we get a bid for it, and it's out of the realm. A lot of times clients and builders will forget that we took that out, because remember, the budget couldn't support it. Mm-hmm. So it's always good, because like I said, you're talking to clients and everything. They're in the design, and they're sitting there and they're saying, yeah, I really like this, or showing pictures to the designer and everything. But at some point, it got taken out. And then at least the specifications gives you a starting point. This is what we have. And it's always good for them to read it. It's good for the builder and them to read it together before they sign it and make any corrections then. So that, like I said, everybody is on the same place. Because then if they come back and I've seen this before. I've seen where homeowners have talked about something, it was taken out, and then they're even in the project. They'll, like you said, well, don't you remember all those pictures about the closet and everything? Yes, I remember us talking about them.
Right.
But we had to take those out. Remember, it's noted, closet, deleted, whatever was deleted. And you signed it. That's why.
And we can put it back in.
Exactly.
We can do anything that you want to do. These are just the plan that we laid out to make sure we could move forward properly.
So I work with the clients, and I'll ask them a ton of questions. And I always preface the questions with, look, you may not know the answer to all this, because a lot of people don't. If I start talking about a style of doors or something, they don't know. And I'll let them know, look, by what you're saying, I'm going to put in something that I think fits, but nothing you say, you can give me an answer now. It can be changed. But at least we have something to set a budget at.
Right, and something to measure against. So
Right.
I kind of use the analogy, we're in Huntsville, Texas right now. We're about 60 miles from College Station. Okay, it takes an hour to get to College Station. If you left 30 minutes ago, how far out are you? No one knows, right? We don't know how far you've made it, whether you stopped and got gas, whether you drove really slow, whether you drove really, really fast. We have nothing to measure it against. However, you say, hey, I'm in Shiro, or I'm in, Bedi, about halfway between. Okay, well, then you're still about 30 minutes out, no matter how long it took you to get there. So we use a schedule for a baseline. The schedule is guaranteed to change. There's never been a house that was scheduled out and built exactly on schedule. But we do have something to measure it against. Are we ahead of schedule? Are we behind? Why? These things. The budget's the same thing. As we go through, we keep actual costs, but how are we doing is a measurement against something. And so we can build anything that you want and change it at any time. We just have to have, something to base this off of to see, hey, how much room do we have left? This is the information you're going to need when you go to make those changes.
Right.
So you put together the specs. The specs, we use the more fun examples like the tile and the granite and the countertops and the cabinets and things like that. But specifications are everything about how a house is built. For instance, this gets really deep into something that the majority of your homeowners, when they're talking to a builder, don't really have a good grasp of. So they bring you in a plan and say, price this. A lot of times they do get some type of budget back, especially now that a lot of builders have gone to a cost-plus model. It takes a lot of the responsibility off of the builder for estimating the project. Here's 10 items. Here's 10 real big round numbers. We'll see how it goes as we're going. It's surprising, like you kind of alluded to a minute ago, it's surprising how many are signing those contracts and moving forward not knowing what they're getting with their home. And that can include, for instance, your framing and your sheathing and your siding, the exterior cornice and trim and all of that. A lot of times that's not super clear to a homeowner what they're getting or what they should be getting or want or anything like that. There are some builders that we can use Zip's system. That's a relatively newer, I guess it's not newer, but it's more popular now than it was before. It's got the moisture barrier attached and everything. We can go from there to an OSB with a Tyvek wrap. We can use an OSB with a Tyvek wrap and use the bottom, say 24 inches as treated because that's where the rot normally sets in. We could go from there, maybe not we, but there are builders out there that they're going to put tar paper on the studs and nail siding direct to the studs. Well, as the builder, you know that when those studs start bowing, the siding's going to start getting a little bit of a wave to it years down the road, and that's not necessarily the quality that everyone's looking for. It does get you into that price that you like. So if you're handing a plan to 6 different builders, and they're quoting various, that's one little example that could be done 3 different ways, 4 different ways. That times that by 60 or 100 throughout your house, and whether you pick the same cabinets or not, it still doesn't say how your home's going to be built. You're going to be built with first studs or standard better, number 2, number 3. How important is that to know the quality of the house that you're getting that you can't really see that day one.
Well, you're right, because if you handed your plans to 6 different builders and you don't give them any specifications and they don't produce any specifications back to you once they've had it estimated, you don't know what you're getting. And they can get a number. They can get a framer and get a bid. You don't know anything. Are they going down to the labor pool? Are they pulling some people? You don't know if you don't have anything that says this is what we're going to build to. You haven't spoken with them. Make sure that they do have reputable. They're not changing out contractors for every job. Mm-hmm. You don't want that and everything. But if you have nothing to back it up, they will build you a house.
Yeah.
Now, are you going to like that house when you're done? Probably not.
Right. And that's where, you can, Google complaints against home builders and run out of time to read it, right?
Yes, you want to, like I said, since you're spending probably more money than you're ever going to spend on anything else at this point in the time, you need to know where your money's going.
Yes.
Because truthfully, if you're talking to different builders and they're all in the same location, basically, there's only so many places they can buy their lumber.
Right.
One may get a few pennies off for a board than the other one, but truthfully, everybody's dealing with the same costs.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been amazed before on homes that I had bid and lost. We did not get the bid. And I walked into the home and I knew this was not the home I budgeted. I estimated on. I had seen ceilings heights changed. I had seen several things changed that I was like, and come to find out, some of the homeowners weren't even aware.
Right. So there's one thing that the homeowner changes is it with one builder and the other builder didn't know it. So they don't have an accurate idea of what that other builder would have cost because they were going by the specs, not a change that the homeowner might have mentioned or said was okay. Second thing is maybe a builder changing something on a whim. And then, you know, as a homeowner, before we really get into this, we think, hey, they're going to build it like we tell them to build it. Yes, but when you're 3 months past that decision and you realize what has to be taken out and what, you know, the possibility of what it really looks like to change this and how much time you're going to have to wait and things like that, then you start getting pressured to okay these things that you didn't really want in the first place, but now you've gone past the point of being able to change them.
Right.
And the last thing we want as a builder is for our homeowners to end up with a home that they don't want.
Or not what they were expecting.
Or not what they were expecting. Exactly. And how to know those expectations without laying them out and getting agreements on them. You know, we all feel like we're on the same page when we start. But then once we realize we're not, that's where a lot of those complaints against builders or complaints against homeowners come from, which could have been solved with laying all that information out and agreeing on it at the front end.
Right. Everybody being on the same page and being told, so the homeowner's told up ahead. If they're asking for something and you as a builder know this is going to take you out of your budget that we're trying to hit, at least they are aware of that at that point.
Yeah.
And
it's just planning.
Then you as a builder, you can work with them and say, let's see if we can find money someplace else that you don't mind changing things, you know, but you still got to have the walls. You still got to have the roof. Yeah. So there's some things that we can take money out of, you know, and get you still the product that you want.
Right. As a builder, that's absolutely my goal, is to sit down with you as a homeowner and give you someone to help work through this process and plan this with you. Someone that knows some of the questions to ask or the people to align you with to get this goal outlined. Whether we go down that path exactly or not, what path are we going to go down to? You know, are you going to build a home? If the answer is yes, then let's work together to figure out what that home is, you know.
And I think that I haven't worked with you long enough to do this, but I think that one thing that we definitely could do is if you have a homeowner that has bid out their house to a couple builders and they tell you that they're not going to go with you because of price. Mm-hmm. We would ask them, look, cross out any money listed, names, everything. Let you have a chance to look at it and point out the differences between what you were quoting versus Builder B, mm-hmm. and be able to give the opportunity. Look, Builder B has hollow core doors.
Yep.
You had stated
or
solid,
they didn't spec them.
Or they didn't spec them. So what are you getting? Mm-hmm. And that can be a real eye-opener too.
Right. Yeah, and it's scary. Yeah, maybe not scary, but a homeowner goes and gets this information, and a lot of the times they keep things close to the vest, right? They're looking for someone to help them through this process, but may not be, super willing to give all the information up. So you offer, hey, let's do a proposal review. Don't just get one from me, get one from multiple builders, and then let's compare them. Maybe there is a reason that you align with another builder better. Maybe there's another reason that they can do it for, the same or similar service for less money. And why not? If you're getting the same thing for the money, it's not the price, it's what you're getting for the money, right? So there are sometimes reasons to go with one builder over the next. Let's just make sure all of those reasons are outlined and everything's clear to where you're not surprised somewhere. Finding someone to help you go through all of those things isn't necessarily someone's got a sign out on the road saying, hire me to help you go through proposals, Right. Most of this is covered by builders, or it's not covered by builders, but that's who you're expecting to do it, so those things come up and are a little harder to find someone to help you do that.
Right.
So what are some of I know we've talked about a ton of them, but what are some of the problems that you have seen that come from not clarifying these specs? If we haven't talked about them yet.
I was going to say, I think we've talked about most of them. Well, in specifications, sometimes I've seen that they're asking for something and it does take them out of budget. They're shocked at how much it is. Mm-hmm. So I think with the specifications and the budget, when you present it to them, I think that shock is better to be had then.
When you can still do everything about it.
Yes. Still do everything about it. You haven't even started building. So if need be, you can go back and change the plans, par them down, change finishes on the exterior or whatever. But it's still all doable.
You can pull the plug.
You can totally pull the plug.
You get halfway through this building and you realize that what you're getting isn't matching up with the specs. And then you address that with your builder, and then you realize you've gone so over budget that you don't want to finish this house. It's too late for that.
Right.
That's the importance of what we're talking about putting together. So if let's say that you were going, if a homeowner called you, not a homeowner, someone that wanted to build a house, and they were your friend, and they picked up the phone and they said, Sandy, I want to build a house. What do I do first? What do you suggest?
I definitely would suggest do specifications. So, in my opinion, you personally start thinking about, as a homeowner, what do I want? Do I want simple things? You don't have to know the exact products. But okay, I want stained cabinets versus painted cabinets, things like that. You don't have to pick the colors of the walls or anything like that, but just start making a list. I think it's good when you'd already have that list especially if you're going to start comparing builders. Because if you go into a builder, one builder like us will probably ask you 50 questions. Mm-hmm. There is going to be other builders that are going to ask you 5 to 10 questions. And you will never get oranges to oranges.
Right.
You're going to get apples to pineapple. You're just never going to get it. But if you at least start with yourself, knowing some of the things that you do want, then you will get closer. Because there is a lot of builders that do not ask questions, mm-hmm. and they do it on purpose. Because if they don't ask the question, if they don't ask the question, then they don't get the answer, mm-hmm. and they can put whatever they want in there.
Then that level of ambiguity.
If they didn't ask you about your doors, for instance, we keep going back doors, but they didn't ask you, do you want hollow core or solid core doors? They can do whatever they want to make that budget fit in
Right.
your budget area. You know, they can play the games, but I would think most people, if you're going to spend that much money, you want a builder that does ask the questions, does find out what you want, and then we'll work with you
Yeah.
if the budget doesn't fit yours and give you options and work with you with those options so that it does fit the budget. Or, unfortunately, because of the times, you know, we've gone through, some things are more expensive and there's just no other way of getting around it. But at least you know, and you're set to know, okay, I wanted to spend this much, I am going to spend a little bit more. But don't you want to know that now?
Right. But then so at that point, you have a true guide helping you through
Right.
this instead of someone that says, hey, leave me alone, let me do my job, because they're going to put whatever doors they want to in your house.
Yeah, and that you will be working with them, and even through the process, working with them to see if you can reduce the budget. Look, hey, here's another option. We could do this,
Right.
and it would potentially save you this much. And at that point, then you're the driver.
Right.
You get to make the decisions. No, or yes, that sounds like a good idea. Let's go with that.
So they've put together a preliminary list of their wants, that they want in this house, maybe some inspirational pictures or something like that. And then now they have that information. It's not necessarily organized, but it is a general information about what they want in their home. Who do they call first? Would you suggest starting with a designer, starting with a builder? Who do you start with?
I think nowadays I'd start with the builder. I think most builders, what I have noticed is in the last 5 to 10 years, most builders have started with, they have a team. So they'll have you have to feel comfortable. I mean, you're going to be in a partnership for 6 to 12 months.
Right.
I mean, and it's going to be a close relationship.
Yeah.
So you want to feel comfortable with that person and his team, because if you don't, you're just going to have problem after problem.
Yeah.
You can go to a architect and design a house, and that's fine. And then you are giving each builder exactly
Right.
what you want to build. But again, it's just a flat piece of paper.
Right.
You do need to have some idea of what you want, finishes in that. There's both ways. I mean, there's both ways, because if you feel comfortable with the builder, then you could start the design process.
Well, and I agree, because as a builder, I've had clients that started with a design so that they would have their design to be able to take to multiple builders. Which the way we design, we don't lock you into us, right? We design it; it's your plan.
Right.
We encourage you to talk with other builders, but from a homeowner's perspective, sometimes they do start with design and bring it in. I've had designs to where when I looked at them from the hip, I think they're $750,000 to $850,000 homes, $400,000 budget that they talk to the designer about. But designers don't deal in costs and specs and
No,
all of
they
these
do
things.
not.
They're dealing with what the home looks like. It's design, right? They're not building it. They're not pricing it out, anything like that. So I'm not saying good designers don't have an idea of what things cost, but is that the front end of the conversation? So finding someone that helps guide you through the budget and the things you want before you bring that designer in, I think that's important to do.
I think that's real important, because I have seen that several times where someone went to an architect, designed a house and everything. Then when they bid it out, they were shocked. They were totally shocked. A lot of designers will design up to a point, and before they take it to the final step, they will suggest you need to go start talking to builders to find out. And because they still have that option then to par things down, change exteriors, whatever, to get it within budget. I definitely would do that before I moved on final.
And to have help from someone that's actually building it. You know, there are some, you may find that the designer you worked with, there are some builders in your area that don't work with that designer or don't build off that plan. That's a rare thing. Or the designer maybe is, you know, buying plans off the internet. A lot of times these plans off the internet aren't coming with enough detail
No.
to actually build off of. And the majority of our clients that come in with some type of floor plan or something that they found from the internet, most of the time they haven't bought them yet, thankfully. They've just printed kind of the floor plan off. But they already want to make changes because that's the whole thing about building a custom home is building your home that you want to build. So starting with a builder or someone that has some type of building experience, I think is good because they can kind of outline what the details of the drawing are telling the homeowner.
They can work with you with your budget.
Mm-hmm.
And the builder can give you heads up when you're in design and you start mentioning things, and he can kind of at least raise that red flag then, saying, you know, you can have it, but I just want to warn you, you know, that's going to add more money to the budget. And at least then, you know, you haven't gone all the way through, and the builder can give them more information on it and get better costs and everything. But again, at least they're warned before they've started anything, rather than, like you said, where you've done it all, you bring it in, and every builder just has told them they're out of budget.
Yeah, because the main two resources that a homeowner are looking at with this is time and money. I mean, those are the resources that are they're finite, right? So I don't want to waste any of a homeowner's time or any of a homeowner's money until you know I don't want to waste it at all. So before we really start design, that's what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you thoroughly about your budget, thoroughly about what you're looking for, because you're going to spend quite a bit of time in design and you're going to spend money. And whereas this conversation, reiterates that the design is worth the money and the specs are worth the money, but no one needs a couple of $1,000, few $1,000 picture of a house that they're never going to build. Right. So if you design an $800,000 house for a $400,000 budget, most of the time for most of us that's too far apart. That house is never getting built, but someone paid the time and the money to design it.
Right.
And so the more that we can help keep that from happening, and let's be as efficient as possible with our time and our money, and let's move through the design the best way that we can. What we've found is if we'll have real honest conversations and get pretty deep into what they're looking to build in the first conversation and what they want to spend, if a homeowner will be open and honest with us about their budget, and we can work together about what we want for that budget, what is more important than other things, how we prioritize those, then before we really get started with the designer, we have some type of realistic expectation that we believe it's possible to build this house for that budget. So then we step out with the designer. We use that as a measurement, right? When we get the design back, we compare it against, okay, we were thinking we could afford 2,000 square foot. You all got it in at 1,850, even better, right? For your budget. If you're happy with this, or if we need to change something, we've got a little bit of room now. Once we get the design back, that's when we step in and we go through the specs. You ask them their ton of questions, right? Yeah. The biggest feedback that I've gotten from a meeting like that is, I had no idea this much went into it. I had no idea this much went into planning my house or what was going into it. No one else has asked me these questions. I don't know where their numbers came from because they didn't ask these questions. You get that feedback a lot because it's so thorough. But at the end of that, they feel more confident about the drawings and the specs coming together so that those quotes mean something. Because how can you get numbers if you don't have these things laid out? So once we get the bid specs and the drawings together, then we can get quotes. And they have a package to take to other builders. And that's when I encourage that is, hey, you start by talking to a bunch of builders, but you don't really know how to pick anyone because it is so apples to oranges. Once you have the plans put together and the specs put together, if you have someone to help guide you through that portion of it, then you've had a builder type person or a builder help guide you through the plans and specs, at that point, as a homeowner, you can go out and talk to as many builders in your area and get relatively close quotes. At least they're based off the same things, and it doesn't have as much ambiguity in what you're getting back.
Right.
So, all right, so that's kind of the advice to someone wanting to start out is, find your builder, find a person, that can help guide you through this process, get plans and specs, get real quotes. What about the builders? What if someone, we've got a young guy that works with us. He's got a construction management degree from Sam Houston. What are some advice? What you've been through all parts of it. You've handled the finalizing everything with the customer service end. You've been with the vendors and the project. I mean the vendors and the suppliers, everyone in the field, putting everything together. And now you're amazing at speccing everything out so that we have a strong place to start. If you're a new builder, what are some things that you want to make sure you get right as early on as you possibly can? Don't stress.
If I was a new builder,
If you were a new builder,
what would I want to get right?
where would you start if you said, "Hey, I'm putting my sign out there. I'm going to be a builder tomorrow." What would you want to make sure you had in place before you got started?
I think the team, and the team, as a builder, you can't afford to actually employ the framer and the plumber and insulation, everybody, but to have a strong team and work, you become a family, you work with the same people. They know what's expected from you for the quality you want to produce for your clients. And you also know their members, their staff enough that you have a good working relationship. I think that makes a huge difference. Because it does. It takes a village to build a house.
No kidding.
So you want to have consistency in there. And I think that with the builder and the homeowners, there is going to, during the build, there will be conflict. Whether it's something wasn't put together like they thought or you thought, or something happens at the house. The question you always want to answer, if I was a homeowner, I would want a list of some homeowners to call regarding that. And one of the questions I think I would want to know is, how did he or she handle that? Was it handled to your satisfaction? Because like I said, you're going to come across issues.
Yeah.
But how that did that builder or that vendor, you want to work with vendors that they're going to be watching your back and helping you out to fix problems.
That's absolute gold right there. That I can't imagine a better answer. You're absolutely right. In more rural areas, a lot of the times your builders are one person.
Right.
They've got tools in the back of the truck. They got shoebox full of receipts. It's hard to give you an accurate, instant review of your budget when that's how you're managing a project. If you're talking about someone that has some member on their team handling all of the job costing and the accounting, it can be a full-time job, or there are partners that builders can team up with. When you're talking about the estimating of specs and the tracking down quotes, when you have one person trying to do all of those parts, none of us are that good at all of the things.
Right.
So we're already doing a few things that we're weak at, not to mention the capacity to be able to do that as one person is really tough. So how much can you possibly manage? And then the vendors, when homeowners ask for multiple quotes, the reality is for the majority of your builders, they only have a few, if any more than one, that they quote different things through.
And there is a reason for that, just for that, because you want you want to have a relationship with that person.
Yeah.
If you have and there are several, I guess, contractors that it is very common to have too, like insulation companies or something like that. Some of it is because, like you build way out a lot. There's some that just
won't go to that.
They won't go there.
Area.
So you have to have a second. But most builders that have a relationship with, say, one electrician or one plumber or something, they have a good relationship. It doesn't mean that just because you do, this guy's going to jack him up and that's why he's so high, is because that they're not. What it does mean is this builder has a relationship with this guy. So if we have an issue a year down the road, something happens weird in 3 years, he can call him up, and that plumber, electrician, whatever, that contractor will usually come in. And yes, it may be something that was messed up on our part, or it might have just been something Phil.
Yeah.
But at least you have someone that knows what they use, how to fix it, and they are more willing to.
They have an incentive to continue to work with that builder.
They have an incentive to come back, and it is a relationship.
I find a plumber's card from the barbecue stand. I don't know if he's ever coming back. I don't know what to expect from his work. It really puts me on a downside of, as builders, our brand is only as strong as those that are actually building your home. I mean, full disclosure for anyone that doesn't already know, your builder doesn't build very much. They're managers.
Right.
So
they're not out there with the hammer.
They're not. So those that are out there with a hammer, we really need to be able to trust those team members. I don't know how much of this he's told you or but one of our most trusted vendors, right? There are lumber companies all over. We're 45 minutes north of Houston. If you've heard of the lumber company, we can call them, right? Thomas Supply is a multi-generational, family-owned lumberyard out of Livingston, still an hour away, and they are competitive with their pricing. You can't beat their service. We love them as a vendor, right? Scott Ansey over there at Thomas Supply is, I guess you could call him their number 2 guy. He's the guy in there. A lot of time it's either him or Russell Thomas, the owner, calling you back. And he got me on the phone the other day, and he said, man, I've been in this business a long time, and he worked at Walker and Bird back in Huntsville when Walker and Bird was around. I don't remember Walker and Bird. It was before my time, right? But anyway, he has been in this industry a long time. He's super knowledgeable. He helps us with takeoffs. He goes toe-to-toe with anyone, right? And he told me the other day, he said, man, Sandy calling me on these quotes and getting these specs right and everything, he said, she goes toe-to-toe with me. He said, that lady knows her stuff. He said, it was surprising, the tone in his voice to hear, because he works with so many contractors, so many builders, and he says, look, what she's specking out in the front end, the questions she asks me on my quotes and what I have to clarify. He said, this is stuff that sometimes, for whatever reason, sometimes I have a reason, sometimes it's something that she caught. He goes, but this is stuff that wouldn't get caught until it was going on in the field, and man, she is thorough and she knows what she's talking about.
That's funny. We had a long conversation, I think, because of some building ways.
Mm-hmm.
We figured out we were right about the same age.
He said that.
He says, yeah. He says, I don't want to say how old you are because you're a woman, but I'm thinking you're real close to my age because some of the things you're saying.
Yeah, and we've, kind of the way we've put our business together is we do want to help you lay out your house on the front end, and we do encourage you to talk to multiple builders. We're going to be one of them. You come in and talk to us as a builder normally, not necessarily as a consultant or someone to plan your house out, but it doesn't mean we're even going to be the only ones that sees it. I mean, we have Garrett with Big Custom Homes or Custom Renovations and Construction. He's amazing. He manages projects. We have, Malcolm, Cole, my partner Tony. We're all at Turnkey managing projects. So, we'll do all of this planning, and then we'll look at multiple builders all working in kind of the same system. And my partner Tony, he's you and Scott, Tony, y'all are in that same generation of coming up through that homeowner. So we or home building, so we rely on a lot of Tony's expertise as well. But Scott and Tom and Russell have given us a lot of grace because we are younger builders. We've been Turnkey's been building for 7 years, but I've got my partner Tony. Garrett learned a ton from the builder that he was working with before, and as far as I know, they still have a really good relationship. But we are still younger builders calling Scott, and I know that sometimes he has a different feeling when I talk to him, right? He's rolling his eyes sometimes, whether he'll admit it to me or not, but when he talks to you, it's different. So I thought that was super cool because I trust his opinion.
Well, and the relationship, because you do have such a good relationship with Thomas Supply, I know that they work with your framer and give advice to the framer, so the framer is comfortable, and vice versa. He calls up, the framer calls up to them, and why did you give me this? Why did you give me this? And they can talk.
Yeah.
So it is all about teamwork.
Yeah, because that's a great point, because someone that's going to handle material and labor, everything, great, but a lot of your contractors are labor only,
right? And
they have relationships just like you do with their own suppliers, and where they like to get material and be able to bounce back and forth, with things like you just mentioned. So absolutely, sometimes you'll get a quote from us and we won't use some other suppliers to even quote it, because we know the contractor that fits that project the best, in our opinion, will only work with these certain vendors or something. So all of that's going on, and it is all surrounding by relationships. And you are a relationship we are super thankful for, and we really appreciate it. So hope everyone enjoyed this. Please like, subscribe, do all the things. If you want to check out more that Sandy has to offer, shoot us an email at strategy@builtbyturnkey.com. Like and share it around. Thanks. Let's begin to build.